Welcome to FFO Studio. Today, my guest is Mirko Ross. Mirko leads a company, Ashwin.io. They are into cyber risk management and quantification of cyber risks. And what brings you to Bangalore, man? I already know the answer, but for the viewers.
Okay, I'm here for the G20 summit. So India is hosting the G20.
Yeah.
And there is as well now in Bangalore a big event, which is the Digital Innovation Alliance. So the G20 is bringing together all the digital, let's say, innovation people from the G20 country here to Bangalore to present, to discuss, to share, to inspire. And as well, there's one track in the G20 about IT security. And so each country of the G20 have selected the best or most promising startups of their country. And we with Ashwin are the most promising for Germany.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man. So how do you get selected? Like, how did you find out about it? Did they reach out to you?
Yes, we had been before in a program, which is the German-Indian Accelerator Program.
Okay.
So we talk later a little bit about our foundation or relation to India, but we had been already a strong relation with that program with the German government as well, and our startup. And then, however, I mean, cybersecurity is a hot topic. So I think for us, it was a competition to be here. But let's say in a way, we are so excellent and so brilliant prepared. I mean, they choose the right ones from Germany to be here in Bangalore.
Let's bring up how foundationally you're connected to India, right? What brought about the name Ashwin.io?
Oh yes, I mean the name is deeply reflecting our mission, and now we are coming to the Indian connection. It's like we have chosen our name in relation to the Indian gods, or the healer of gods, and we believe that for cybersecurity, large companies, especially large companies, sometimes they are gods of their industry. Let's say in that way, they are getting sick. I mean, they are vulnerable, they are getting sick, they are getting infected by malicious actors, and then they need a healer of gods. And here we are.
Beautiful. So is this your first time in Bangalore?
No. It's my first time in Bangalore, but we have as well some other routes to India. So, for example, our CTO is from India.
Okay.
And as well in our staff, we have people from India working in our staff.
Oh, right.
So
how big is the team right now?
So we are now 20 people.
Okay.
And in the team, we have 3 people from India.
Oh, wow. And how are the responsibilities divided among the people in the team?
Yeah, our CTO, for example, is from India. So he's part of the management board. And we have 2 people in the R&D team from India. And I mean, we are super happy with people from India. Super excellent, really super excellent people.
It's amazing.
And I'm a little bit afraid as well, because I'm telling my CTO, for example, look at the American companies. All the big tech companies in America are as well operated and run by Indians in the management board. So we need to be very careful as well. You're so smart in India. You outperform everybody.
All right. So just the best part about India is also the worst part about India. Too many people.
Yes, however, I enjoy the Bangalore traffic coming to you into the studio, which is, but as well, I think for autonomous driving cars, this would be the hardest playground.
I know. There are no markers on the road. Again, not just India, but like Bangalore in particular. I think if they can solve the problem over here, if they can get autonomous cars to run on Bangalore streets, I think that's the...
Then it would work anywhere, isn't it?
I know. It's like the Turing test for autonomous vehicles. If they can do that, yeah, sure. Yeah. Let's talk about IoT security. So what do you see in the industry going on right now?
There's a joke which means the S in IoT stands for security.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. So obviously the IoT space is suffering towards security since the beginning. Now what we see, and which is maybe the most progress, is that the regulatory environment is changing really on a very quick way. For example, in Europe, we are getting the Cyber Resilience Act, which is particularly built to secure IoT devices, forcing vendors to implement security. Yeah. We see it in the US as well. We see it in China. So if all the major markets are shifting towards regulatory requirements on IoT security, vendors have no other chance to implement security in their products,
Right.
because then otherwise they will be out of business. And this is happening now.
Especially with AI coming in.
Yeah, there are so many toys. It's not only AI, but to be honest, if we look at the IoT space and security, this is really a historical story of fails. To me, it's all this major large botnets who are operating on weak IoT devices. I mean, they are really a danger factor now in because if you want to build a super massive botnet and you're owning them, you can do really a lot of bad things. That's one point. The second point now, I think, where with all this, as well, geopolitical changes we see now in troubles, many governments and even large companies are getting more aware about their critical infrastructure. And connected critical infrastructure is built on IoT.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you can't afford to have security weakness in there, because otherwise you may run into a blackout.
Yeah. We've all seen Die Hard 4.
Yeah.
Also, what comes to mind is Skynet from Terminator.
Yes, if you talk about AI and IoT, then we are close to Skynet. Yes, but I think if you look at the past 12 months, what happened is that the regulatory environment is getting much more harder now for companies if they are in the IoT space. Mm-hmm. And if you want, for example, if you're an IoT vendor and you want to sell your product, let's say the next 12 months to Europe, if you are not implementing IoT security in terms of security by design and security by default, you will be out of business for Europe. And you will be out of business for the US. And you will be out of business for China. I mean, where do you want to sell? India. Yeah. But even India will tighten up the regulations.
I'm sure it's not very far away. We've just got the new data privacy act.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what are some essentials that companies should take care of, to not be hounded by the government?
Okay, there's a really a major list of important points. One, for example, is securing your supply chain. What does it mean? It means you have to implement, for example, software bill of materials. And a software bill of material for IoT product is sometimes not so easy to create, because if you have, for example, you have your wireless LAN stack, your semiconductor in your product, and you haven't developed it yourself. Never. I mean, this is something you're buying from Shenzhen in China.
Yeah.
Do you know what kind of Linux system is running on that semiconductor? Obviously, most companies not.
Yeah.
Now in the future, you're forced that you know what kind of Linux stack is running on that and what kind of software components are running on your wireless module.
Wow.
And this is important because you need to patch them. Because if I want to make a botnet, the first thing I will attack the wireless LAN module and the Linux on it.
Right.
So software bill of materials are very important. Second one is security by design. For example, it's not more allowed to have hard-coded passwords on your stacks.
Got it. Mm-hmm.
So if you bootstrap your IoT device, you will force the users to change the password. That's as well a very important implementation, which will maybe solve as well 80% of the problems with IoT devices out there. Mm-hmm. Factory set passwords.
Yeah. 0000.
Exactly. Admin. I mean, it's a joke.
And what are the penalties that companies will incur if they don't follow this?
They were in Europe. They will be very high. It was about let's say it's a two-stage penalties. One is, for example, you have to pay up to 2 million euros,
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're a larger company, it's up to 3% of your turnover, annual turnover. It's not about your revenues; it's about your annual turnover.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So give me do you have some examples of some stories in which somebody got hacked, someone you knew or a botnet or a network that got taken down or you helped with?
I mean, there are a couple of stories out there. For example, we are looking at the moment closely to critical infrastructure, which are power networks, for example, or industrial network providers. And what you see is that, for example, industrial companies are getting more and more in the focus of attackers for several reasons. Let's say one is the classical ransomware reasons, where it's maybe IT problems, but other reasons are about sabotage. The questions: can you tear down a production site? That's what we see along the geopolitical struggles. And there's a very well documented case where German infrastructure have been affected by the Russian-Ukraine war. It was when Russia was starting their campaign, they did a cyber attack on a satellite network provider. And the attack was aimed to cut the communication of the Ukraine military. However, what the Russians did is they hacked the satellite network provider with an unpatched VPN access. And it was a US company. It was an unpatched VPN, so a common vulnerability, let's say it in that way. And they were hacking the satellite modems. And even the satellite modems for IoT devices, they were accepting updates without any signed software. So they were trusting any software to apply it on the modem. So easy game for the attackers. But what they did is they were applying a so-called wiper firmware update, which means a wiper firmware update is built for you apply it on a device and it will erase everything which is about software on this device. So you can't update, you can't fix it by a software update afterwards. It's a brick. And for a military operation, they said, well, there's a geofence where we apply this wiper update, mainly for the, let's say, Ukraine geolocation. But to be, let's say, more on the safe side, they expanded the geolocation, which has then affected wind turbines in Germany.
Oh.
So, and it was really heavy. It was several thousand wind turbines in Germany affected on that day who got this wiper update, which means that all this energy power generation based upon wind, there were no more telemetric data available. And that was an IoT. It was attacking an IoT device. And that's as well why I think even if you're a company, I mean, in Germany, we live in a peaceful, in a peaceful, Europe is still a peaceful area. Yeah. However, you can get affected by geopolitical struggle, which is not directly related to you.
Right.
Because it's maybe the cyber attack or campaign is just affecting your devices for certain reasons. So, and we have seen this in multiple way in the past that you are just collateral damage.
Can you make some predictions in this area? Do you see something that people should be wary of or should be cautious about that they're not already?
What we see is for IoT devices that the complexity is increasing.
Right.
So, and let's take in consideration a modern car. There is what we bring as an example. It needed 145,000 lines of code to bring a man to the moon. 145,000. Okay, that's a modern car today has about 100 million lines of code, and there are predictions that a modern car in 3 years will consist of 300 million lines of code.
Oh my God!
If you consider that there's a software error naturally, let's say one software error by 1,000 lines of code, that's how coders working. I mean, there are bugs in there. It's so if you code yourself, you know what is the problem with coding. So if you consider that there's natural on the statistic 1,000 per 1,000 lines of code, one bug or error in your source code, then you know what is the problem with 100 million lines of code. So with the complexity of products, products will be vulnerable.
Right.
And if you close one vulnerability, you're getting another one.
Right.
That's the message out there. So of course you need to fix and patch. Please fix and patch your products. Don't stop that. However, you need to be used to that your product will be always vulnerable.
Right.
If you look in our company, what we're doing is like, it's all about risks. So we say, well, if you have an IoT product, then you need to deal with the risks. Because there will be no risk-free product anymore.
And it cannot be possible, I think.
It's not possible.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not possible.
Anything can be broken into.
Exactly. And we see it as well, like with this big major problems we had in the past. Let's take, for example, Log4j.
Yeah.
We've seen it. I mean, there was Log4j. So people were fixing their servers by patching Log4j. But then this Log4j was getting into the focus of people who were looking close into the source codes and close into the patches. And they said, yeah, well, this patch has fixed one problem, but there are two other problems with Log4j. So we need to apply a new patch on it. I remember this time span when Log4j was popping up, that the software administrators and people in the security operations centers, they need to apply 3 or 4 updates. Because this was a huge stress for the people working in there. So that's the reality in the future.
You've got to be slightly paranoid every time, I think. So what was your first job?
My first job?
Yeah.
I was always in computer science. So naturally, what I've studied was architecture. Landscape architecture, yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So how did you make the switch?
I made it during the university. So I was founding my first software company in that time, and then I was completely addicted to software. Yeah. And then from the profession, like if you're in cybersecurity, I was always interested in, let's say, investigating software systems. Yeah. This was I'm very close related as well to the community of people who are doing that. So in Germany, for example, it's the Chaos Computer Club, which are, let's say, the positive way of hacker community. So people who are doing security research on a positive level, doing ethical hackings. So was always related to this community.
All right. And what do you think about the community over here in India? Do you see how evolved is it according to you?
No, I'm really surprised and amazed about the Bengaluru community. I think it's really very vibrant. I was listening this morning a speech of your minister for digitalizations, and he was telling about the plans, how he wants to push India into the digital space. I mean, it's already digital. Let's say from a digital perspective, India is already a superpower. I mean, look how much software is produced in India. And as I said, how many CEOs of major companies are from India. Right. So it's already a superpower. But obviously, the plan is not only to get a superpower, to become a superpower. And this is amazing. I mean, there's a lot of spirit in there. I think very talented people, very good companies. Obviously, maybe when you speed up digital transformation, of course, there's the danger that you overpace towards security. Right. I think if you look like what are the main risks on digital transformation is, I mean, you have these major risks like that people can't follow up the speed. I mean, we can talk about AI later, but as well, like one limiting factor is cybersecurity. Yeah. So I see a big danger as well, like if you overpace and you're not implementing security in this process, you are getting slowed down simply because attackers will immediately find their opportunities to get, let's say, value out of that growing Indian economy.
Yeah. I was also thinking, like, what can one do to increase awareness about privacy and cybersecurity among the masses? What can one do? We were good with a community that learns from each other because they're all in the same space. But what about your common man?
Yeah, but what was as well for me very interesting is like when I had been on the event, there was one on the exhibition, they were showing an education program where really kids were building IoT applications.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way, because kids building IoT applications, they get an immediate understanding of what they are doing, technology-wise, how it works, what are the weak points, and from that, the conclusion where I need to protect myself. I think it's all about knowledge.
It is, yeah.
So if you want to protect yourself better, it's very good to know how things are working. So, and this was amazing. I mean, school kids, 10 years, 11 years, and there was a program out there supporting them. That's amazing. So that's one thing, like education, how you get people educated. And then the second one, unfortunately, on cybersecurity is learning by pain. That's
true for anything, actually.
Exactly. It's like with no pain, people are not intended to take care on security.
Right. Like that's what we see. Like people tend to be more reactive than proactive.
Yeah.
All right. So you were talking about like starting really young, right? What was the first thing that you built that you remember building as a kid?
As a software code?
Yeah.
I think it was trying to code a game. It was super simple. I mean, it was all about sprite animation and stuff like that. Very, very deep in the machine, because you need to write values into certain parts of the memories to create a sprite. It's a pixel, it's part of a pixel, and to animate this over the screen and to identify collisions with other sprites. This is super nerdy. On that time, there was no other way to do that, but which gave me the ability to learn how a semiconductor works. And if we look now on IoT security, and that's as well one problem, that people who are in the software industry, they're used to code software. Okay, they can maybe produce secure software code. But IoT is another complexity. You have to deal with semiconductors, with weakness of semiconductors like memory buffer overflows, which is a usual attack. You're creating a buffer overflow. Yeah. But how many people know in the software industry what is a buffer overflow and how it really works? Yeah. So I think IoT people are more aware of that because they are closer to the semiconductor level. I can give you one example, which was amazing for me as well from the past 12 months. I was invited to one of the leading security research institutes who are working on hardware security. And these are really super nerdy researchers, because, I mean, they're working on all the side channel attacks. And side channel attacks, this is, to me, the master class of cybersecurity. So what they were showing me was a trusted processing platform. So if you state of the art, if you want to store your keys very secure on a semiconductor, you need a trusted security environment, a trusted security platform. Right. So this is state of the art how we secure keys on IoT devices. And there's no other possibilities to do that. However, he was showing me how to extract the key of a trusted security platform.
Wow.
And he was doing that with an electronic microscope.
What?
Yeah, it was like they were putting the semiconductor under this electronic microscope. Mm-hmm. And then, no joke, he was pushing electrons in the certain memory areas of the semiconductor, creating an error. Okay. And within this error pattern of the semiconductor chipset, they are able to reconstruct the secret key. And I was thinking, what the hell are you doing? Yeah. I mean, you're pushing electrons to create an error and then recalculate the key. And I said, how complicated it is. And he said, yes, it was my PhD. So I was working 3 years on my PhD. Yeah. But now, as I know how it works, it's just a couple of minutes.
Some of the craziest things I've ever heard.
It's crazy. Yeah. But I mean, that's the level of knowledge. I mean, this is the power of knowledge. Right. If you have hardware knowledge, you can open every box in the world.
Yeah.
That's why IoT people, good trained IoT people, are the masterclass.
All right. So what else are you passionate about?
Well, I mean, I'm definitely passionate about these guys.
Yeah. I want to meet him now.
Yes. Come to Germany, and they can show. I mean, you can go to the lab. They're very proud on showing what they're doing.
Pushing those electrons. Yeah.
Yes. No, that's really passionate. Of course, I'm passionate on science and what I see on the science side. However, I'm doing kendo, Japanese sports. It's as well passionating for me because it calmed down myself.
Kendo is the one with the wooden swords.
Yeah, exactly, with the sticks.
Yeah.
So.
Oh wow. Are you into like martial arts? Are you?
I don't know. I don't know if it's martial arts, but however, yeah, it's a very very good sport. It's about spirit. I mean, it's all about the way how you handle the sword.
Right.
At the end, it's traditionally about cutting people, but you don't do this with the bamboo stick.
Maybe you're not just a security guy. You're also an entrepreneur.
That's obviously if you run a startup, isn't it? You need to be both. You need to be a passionate entrepreneur, but as well very savvy in what you're doing. I think that's super important.
So how are you wired like that and that? Like how do you do both? And how did you get started on your entrepreneurial journey?
I mean, I was always an entrepreneur from the beginning. As I said, I was bootstrapping my first company, so as well as serial entrepreneur. But now with Ashwin, for example, as a new company, it was very clear that we were looking into the IoT space, and we have seen what's going wrong in IoT. Okay, just having a look what's going wrong in IoT, it's not enough to build a company. But we had been, for example, very close with the governments in Europe. So we know very, very specific what was their plan, for example, towards security very early. And then we were thinking about, if they will tighten up regulation, it will affect customers in the IoT space because they are not able to implement security. Right. So maybe it's a good opportunity to build products and services around which will help customers, industrial customers, to implement security in their products, or like what we're doing, like to deal with the upcoming risks. So this was the beginning when we were thinking about creating a company. And then we did this very traditional way of startuping. So find an angel, which is painful. I mean, you have an idea and you have a vision. And if it's good, it's really early. I mean, you're thinking about what will be in 5 years or 6 years. So convince people to spend money for something which is in 5 years or 6 years, and maybe a little bit complicated, like IoT security. It's not so easy to find the right people there. So finding the angel investors.
How did you go about that? Like, tell me about that process.
Yeah, as I said, it was painful a little bit. We were using as well networking. Like, I think it would be rather not so different, like from Bengaluru, if you have an area of people. And I'm coming from Germany in the Stuttgart area, which is a very industrial area, a very tech-oriented area. Not so much startups, but with a lot of large companies like Bosch, Mercedes, Porsche, and so on. So there's really a strong economic environment. So with a lot of people, executive people who have money. Very easy. And who have an understanding maybe and who like startups. So this was our approach. We were just simply picking out some people who were presenting our vision where we want to go. And to be honest, we didn't take the first one who offered them money.
What made you say no?
Yes, it's as well. At the beginning, it's not only about money, isn't it? For an angel investor, it's not about money because you need someone who is super committed and supportive, and as well, maybe not stressing the company or the founders as well, because you need the time to build your product. Okay. And if you have someone who is afraid of losing his money,
it's not.
It will not help you to reach the goals. So we found a really good fit there. And then as well, like if you have the first angel, if you have the first product, the first MVP, doing this classical way on building an MVP with the money, and you have the ability to build your reputation inside, let's say, these local networks or investor networks, which allows us allowed us then to do a pre-seed funding round. So where we got the first VCs in there. And this is as well a different experience than to business angels.
Yeah.
Because VCs, it's all about, to me, it's all about selling, no, yeah, buying Apple cheap, selling Apple expensive. Yeah, I mean, that's their business.
Yeah, that is, you can't blame them for that.
Yeah, that's different to a business angel because they usually business angels are investing their own money, private money. VCs are investing money from their funds.
Yes.
That's different.
They want quick returns.
Not quick. Our pre-seed investors are still invested in us, so they haven't made an exit yet. But however, it's a different approach. Maybe you're talking about due diligence and so on. So, and then using them to build more on the product, on the traction, do the first POCs, show that you can deal with customers, that you understand customers. That's I think the most important thing. Do you understand the customer? I mean, you understand your product, but do you understand the customer?
Correct.
And then from that, we made a seed round. So, which, I mean, the rounds are getting bigger. You have other investors stepping in. So you need to deal as well now, not only with your product, with your customers, you need to deal with investors' relation. So that's the way how we're building the company. To me, it's the cybersecurity topic is a global topic. So why, for example, why it's important that companies like us and you talking together, or maybe are going into cooperation while you're sitting in Bangalore and we are in Germany. I mean, it's a big distance. However, we see it like, let's take the Microsoft problem. I mean, it's easily getting to a local thing happening for a local software company, even in cybersecurity space. If they are successful, can get into a global impact. Let's say it in that way. So, and to me, it's all about that. Companies in the cybersecurity space, it's all about communications. So, if we have a close relation, a close community, we can be much more powerful and successful than being alone.
So at 044, we're a cybersecurity marketplace, right? And we've got our own community of cybersecurity service providers and sellers, right? And we try to increase communication within the community to, talk about certain things as they happen around the globe, right? So what are some of the things that we can do in order to increase communication across the world, so that cybersecurity providers, they all have a common repository to reference from?
It's a good question. And there's no easy answer on that. But however, look at the attacker side. The attacker side is highly organized on the international level. So what the attackers have learned is that they are more powerful on international collaboration.
Right. Yeah.
So, and the cyber defense side is, to me, still too much fragmented in national, let's say, national entities. However, there's no, as I said, no simple answer on that, how to solve that challenge. However, while the attackers can leverage the full global knowledge and power and resources to perform an attack, the defense side is still stuck very on a national level.
Yes, yeah.
And I think we can't win this challenge from a national perspective if we don't collaborate on a global level.
Yes, I agree.
And if the governments are not able to do that, if the large corporates are, they are global, but maybe struggling outside their own corporation doing that.
They've got bigger problems. They've got their own bigger problems.
Exactly. Then I believe the solution for that are the startups and the companies like you and the marketplaces like you and companies are us, because we have no problem to talk.
Yeah.
We can do quick decisions. It's enjoyable, yes. And I think this is one important building block. Yes. So if the defense community on a global level is coming together and we unite on certain topics, and provide better tools by better communication,
Right.
then we have the ability to outperform the attackers.
At least catch up with it.
Yes, no, not only catch up. That's not enough. We need to outperform them.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's address the elephant in the room, Mirko. You've got AI coming into the mix, right?
Yeah.
How do you think that's going to change things? That's going to change things drastically, I know, but how?
It's amazing, isn't it? Since ChatGPT, everybody's talking about AI.
Right.
But I mean, OpenAI hasn't invented AI.
They haven't, no.
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 It was AI was already there and already applied. But however, one thing which is remarkable, there's now more awareness on AI systems.
Yes.
And we, for example, doing research on AI security since 4 years. So we have been in particular research projects where we were attacking AI systems 4 years ago. But no one was interested on that. Now, this is a topic, and I mean, we are getting approached about a question how to bring security into AI. And this is as well very related to what we're doing with risk management, because AI systems are not like a traditional software systems.
Right.
It's a prediction engine.
Right.
So if you ask an AI engine a question, it will give you an answer. But the next time, maybe another answer. I mean, this is all about statistics. This is so different from software.
Yeah.
Asking programmer about writing a function, he's putting in one value and he's getting 2 different outputs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bug.
Yeah. He'll lose his mind.
So, but for AI systems, that's the way how they work. It's all about the quality, let's say the quality and the trust in the quality on the answer of AI systems. Now, what we see in the industry is several things. If you build your critical business on AI at the moment, it's super high risky to do that.
Yeah.
Super high risky. If you are not owning the model, and if you had no control on how this model has been trained. So you need the full control of the supply chain, let's say, of the data you have sourced from IoT devices. Are they secure? Yes or not? Towards the model training, the model itself, and how the model is distributed and handled during the time. If you have no full control on that, you can't trust the model.
You can't, no. Yeah.
So you can't build a trustworthy business or trusted business up on AI if you're not owning that. Yeah. This is something which is currently not seen, let's say, for many who are in this AI hype, because they think about we are providing models based upon services, for example. But if you're creating this kind of models based upon services, how you can provide trust on it. Yeah. So this is a problem. What we did from a research side is we attacked AI systems, and we are attacking AI systems by data poisoning, which means like we are injecting malicious data in, for example, trading sets, one possibilities, or into data which is feeded into an AI model to make an output. And both attacks are working perfectly to move an AI system, let's say, to obey an AI system.
Wow.
I want to obey an AI system. So I'm the master of the AI system. I can really push the output in a certain direction. And it's not a random direction. It's exactly the direction I want to have as an attacker. And it works perfectly.
That's scary.
That's super scary stuff, man. And to be honest, for some systems, the attacks are really so deeply implemented in the way, for example, how a neuronal network is working, like how it's built, that with the right knowledge, you can easily attack it. So, and what we see now is, of course, that for companies who want to implement AI on a trusted level, they need to think about security and how to provide the security over the life cycle, which is as well a super challenging thing. And now comes the point. At the end, it's all about economics, isn't it?
It is.
It's all about economics.
Yeah.
So if implementing security in AI systems during life cycle is getting too complicated and too expensive,
they just drop it.
Exactly. We see a lot of things which are now deployed will disappear from the market because maybe for compliance reasons, it's not possible to run this, let's say, business on an AI-driven business.
I think the larger companies should lead charge on this.
It's always, I think the enterprises are super aware. Many of them are super aware of this. So of course they have to fulfill the expectation of the hype. That's how the world runs. If my board asks for Doobie AI, someone in the organization needs to bring the list of AI projects. However, the question where AI will be really implemented on a business process critical level, this will be only a very selected AI applications. And then they need to implement security as well, how they implement security on critical business process and traditional IT.
Makes sense. How does one get in touch with you?
The most easiest way is about social media, I believe so. So just go for LinkedIn, drop me a message. Right. But it should be an intelligent message because I'm getting a lot of not intelligent messages. So it should be an intelligent message. And then it's very simple to get in touch with me. So social media is the best way, I believe so.
Absolutely. All right. Mirko, it was an absolute pleasure having you here with us.
I really enjoyed it. Yes, awesome.
Let's go get some coffee.
Yeah.